Hi, y'all. This is Jace, and welcome to my first What I Read This Week post. And to be clear, I don't usually read this many books in a week. About half of these were books that I had started, put down during this craziness of getting this business launched, and the others were ones that I comfort read. So I finished 3 and read 3 as I handle the stress of launching this community for you all. So that's where we are, and let's get started. The first book that I finished this week is The Duke and I by Julia Quinn. This is going to be a book that you will see on the blog on Tuesday. Let's just go with Tuesday to make sure all technical glitches get through. And it was a reread just so that I can talk about this, and because I wasn't sure if I loved my first review of it. I felt like I wanted a little bit more description. And this is an MF story, male, female. Both characters are white. It's set in the Regency era, not the Shondaland era. And there's no kink whatsoever. So it was just go read the blog post. The blog post is exactly what I think about it. The next book that I finished is Payback's a Witch by Lana Harper. And I really had a love-hate relationship with this book. I love the concept. It's kind of John Tucker Must Die plus witches, and I found that really kind of cute and compelling and strange. The other thing I really liked about it is there is a lot of queerness and openness. These 3 women who are spurned by this one douche get together to kind of teach him who's boss, and go read the book. I'm not going to spoil that many things. But then 2 of the women who have queer dating history in their own lives kind of fall for each other, and that relationship really builds. There's also a lot of personal growth and development that happens, especially between the main character. So go read it. And I got through it. There were moments when I felt it kind of dragged, but in general, I really enjoyed it. Not terribly smutty. It's FF, female. They're both white, they're witches, but there's no kink really involved. Last book I finished, and I'm just going to mention it, there's no smut in it, so we're not going to delve deeper, is Cinder by Marissa Mayer, and I really felt like this was a fun world-building thing. It's an adaptation of loosely Cinderella, plus aliens and magic and cyborgs. So it was a really enjoyable experience. There's no smut. It's one of a series. I'm probably going to go back to it because sometimes you just got to read about cyborgs. All right. So on to the books that I started and finished this week. The first is Love and Other Words by Christina Lauren. And this is a book that I'd had on my shelf for a little while, and it was about to be returned. All of these books I got at my library. All of them. Either physical, like these books, Duke and I right there, or Kindle, ebook, things of that nature. So onto the book. When it came up, I had it on hold, and it popped up, and I put it on my Kindle, and I reread the description, and I wasn't enthralled by it, but I was like, oh gosh, I should read it. I waited for it, and I made other people wait for it. And I really enjoyed these characters. I loved the character development. I thought the dual timeline was really fun. I thought the relationship was quirky. I enjoyed the personal growth that the female main character went through. It is MF, male, female. They are white. There is no kink. And that's just kind of it. But if you're looking for a very sweet book with a compelling cast of characters, I highly recommend this one. It was a really enjoyable read. Next book was It Happened One Summer by Tessa Bailey. And this is the first Tessa Bailey that I read. So she was very, very big and all over the place. And another one of those, I finally got it from the library, and then it was about to be returned. So I picked it up, and I wasn't sure how I was going to feel about it because the description of the female main character, it is MF, female, male. They are both white. There is no kink. Jeez, apparently I had a theme this week. And, I didn't love her. She didn't feel compelling to me as a character in that description. But I will say that I enjoyed this book. I found it really fun. I found the town very quaint. And if you are someone who is really into thighs, you search for Aussie rules football or rugby because you want to see some big male thighs, apparently this main character has them because she describes them ad nauseum. This book is probably going to be on the blog or talked about in a future episode because of the thigh description alone. And I think it's really interesting how there are some parts of the anatomy that really get described. One of them is forearms for men. So like keep that in the back of your mind if you've got a forearm thing or you have some quotes that you've come across that are really just like very deep about forearms. Like send them over to me because we're going to do an entire episode about that. Last one is 10 Trends to Seduce Your Best Friend by Penny Reid. I've read some other books of hers, the Knitting in the City books, because I love when things are not set in New York or LA, quite frankly, or like a random small town that doesn't exist. And this one exists in Seattle for her. I go back and forth. This was a reread actually because I read it and I was like, I don't know how I feel about this. And so I wanted to come back to it before putting it on the blog. It's male, female, they're both white. There's no kink, though they talk about spreader bars. And the reason is both of these characters in this story are virgins. They haven't had either oral sex, anal sex, vaginal sex. If you're thinking in terms of bases, they've never, like one of them hasn't been to no bases and one of them has not been past second base. So they're pretty inexperienced. And what I will say is I really enjoyed their handling of their inexperience, because sometimes you have sex, you don't have sex, there we go, for moral reasons or religious reasons, and sometimes you just don't have sex because it doesn't feel right. And I want to celebrate that, like, you can get to like your late 20s, early 30s, and if you are not feeling right about having sex, hello sunshine, then you don't have to have it, and you do deserve to have a partner that is worth your time and effort. So that's it. If you have other books of hers or other things that you like, feel free to send them over. That's it. That is my first What I Read story. So put it in the comments. What did you like? What did you think about these books? What are you excited to read next? What should I read next based on my reviews of the books? And I hope you give me a follow. Jace Reads Romance, a community that empowers women, cis, trans, NB, all y'all about sex and sexuality through the reading of romance novels. Thanks, y'all.